Hi everyone, I'm Andre. Welcome to Bringing Brookfield Zoo to you. Today, we're talking about engaging the senses. What senses do you use most often? Touching, smelling, seeing, or hearing? Is one your favorite? We use our senses to explore our world, but not all of us use them in the exact same way. And some may not have a sense that you do. We believe in engaging many senses. This is called multisensory engagement. Let's take a look at our animal care professionals and how this is done with our animal residents.
Good morning, Brookfield Zoo fans and members, and welcome to this edition of Bringing the Zoo to You. Over here we have Schmidt's red-tailed guenons, which are out today, but at other times we'll have Allen's swamp monkeys here, as well as colobus here, Angolan colobus. Primates, of course, are mostly arboreal species. The red-tailed guenons are, of course, get their name from that beautiful red tail. You can see them up there. Hopefully they'll be bouncing around, so Lynette's going to have her work cut out for her today, trying to find the animals in this huge habitat. But there's one on the left here coming up. And you can see that red fur on their tail, which is just awesome. This species also has a really bright white or yellow nose that they're known for, and those white cheeks are really cute, very fuzzy. They eat mostly fruit in the wild, and of course they have to forage for that fruit in the trees in other areas, but when fruit isn't around, they'll eat leaves and gum from the tree as well. Obviously, when you live in the trees, you have to be pretty agile, and all these species are. We have 6 guenons here at the zoo, and to keep them active and to keep them busy, we use environmental enrichment. The habitat itself is really wonderful. It has lots of facilities and things that are really important to maintain the behavior and health of our species here. But then we add things to the habitat to bring out special behaviors from the animal. We have things on the habitat that really help us out. If you want to look down here, I've got a pointer today to hopefully point it out. We've added these little pouches down here that are all over the bases of the trees that allow us to put food in there in the morning. The animal care staff do that, and they'll give them surprises, all parts of their diet. And as the animals come out, they can forage across this large habitat to find food. Sometimes they go in there and they see something they don't like, kind of like your Easter basket. You start with the good candy first and you work your way up to the less preferred. In their diet, they, like us, they have less preferred food items and more preferred food items. So you might have a guenon that's running around and just grabbing the good stuff first. They want to find that. That's their kind of Easter egg hunt for them. And then they'll come back later and eat some of the less preferred things. All of them are valuable and important to their diet. Likewise, in that same general area, you can see some shelving that we put in here. It looks like fungus that we put on the trees. This allows the animals to kind of reside in different levels of our habitat. Being an arboreal species, you'll notice that some primate species will actually kind of find themselves in different areas. Now, of course, those pouches that we have, once they're loaded and the animals have cleaned them out, there's not anything left in them, and we don't typically have the keepers go out with the animals. So we have added timed feeders here that allow us to extend the time in which that foraging can continue for the animals. If you look up into the trees here, knowing that both these species are arboreal, we've got these little things that look like wasp nests, and as a matter of fact, those 2 wasp nests are actually made out of aluminum by our exhibits department here. They did a fantastic job helping them blend in. And they're attached to pulleys. And so in the morning, the animal care staff can crank the wasp nest down, they open it up, and there are tubes inside of that where they can load up part of the vegetable diet of the animal. And then they load it up, and then there's a timer in there that slowly ticks off and drops the food from the top of the wasp nest to the bottom of the wasp nest. You can see the hole down in the bottom there. So this allows us to extend that foraging time, and of course allow to give food for our animals that are higher up in the trees where they would normally get it. So this is really helpful in maintaining that really strong and long-term foraging behavior that all primates have that forage for their food. Let's look down a little bit lower there. You can see there's a pile of bark down here. So we call those forage piles. And what that is basically a natural substrate that we put down, and then within that substrate we can put a type of food item where the animal can forage. There are a lot of animals that forage on the forest floor, And these animals can move up and down from the tops of the trees down to the ground to look for food, and that's just another place for them to do that. So they have to use their hands, their eyes, their sense of smell to find that food. Again, extending the foraging time and bringing out all this natural, healthy behavior that's great for their well-being. If you look up high, that is a camouflage that's hiding a belt feeder that, again, the animal care staff will put food on that. It can last up to 12 hours and deposit food through that chute. It comes down and hits the habitat and then spreads out. Again, having the animals work for their food, use their sense of smell, sense of their eyesight, and then to try and find some of that food when it falls into crevices, they can use all that agility and that dexterity to get that food and consume it. The guenons here are pretty cool. They have really large cheek pouches. In fact, their cheek pouches can hold as much food as their stomach can. And this is really important when you're out there foraging with big groups of animals that guenons tend to go with, because your neighbor might want your food. And so you want to maybe fill up those cheek sacs as much as you can with food, and then go someplace a little bit safer where you can enjoy them all by yourself and not have a chance of them being stolen by your buddy that's also looking for a free meal. These animals, again, are really helpful to the environment. They all have their role. You can see how social they are. Again, they'll spend all their time moving back and forth, and you're actually seeing some really cool behavior by our guenons. You see their heads kind of bouncing around. Sometimes they'll stick their tongue out and lick. These are all display behaviors, and that's how they maintain their social hierarchy and say, I'm a tough monkey, and look at me because I can move my head real funny and make my tongue move, or move my head, drop my head back and forth. All ways that these animals socialize. On top of body positioning and how they hold themselves, they have different types of vocalizations they use, both to contact the members of their family or their troop, or to tell them, hey, I want to be alone and go away for a little bit, or come and see me because I'm friendly and I want to play right now. So we want to make sure we can pull all that behavior out of the animals because our guests get to enjoy that. This is what monkeys do, and every species has different behaviors that are important to them. But in general, the more behavior we can have these animals express here at the zoo, we help increase their welfare. So our animal care staff, our managers, are always looking for ways to come up with new enrichment items to help bring more behavior out of the animal. How about we go over some apes? These are our western lowland gorillas, and we have 8 gorillas here. 4 generations of gorillas, if you can believe that. And all these animals are somewhat related depending on when they came here. The western lowland gorilla is part of a species survival plan, and so we do work with other zoological institutions to make sure that we create the best possible population to ensure genetic diversity and the long-term sustainability of this particular species and all species that are in that program. Western lowland gorillas are just a fascinating species. They're not the largest of the gorilla species. Females can weigh up to 200 pounds, 225 pounds. The males, on the other hand, can be much larger. They can get up to 425 pounds. So there's that, what we call sexual dimorphism, where there's a difference between the two genders. This habitat is really cool. It gives them lots of vertical space to come up to on our, what we call Gorilla Mountain, but all sorts of room to move. Right now our water system's not on. That is one of the features of the habitat. Gorillas don't typically swim, most primates don't, but the water becomes a feature that they can go in and drink from. The water is potable, and as well as just give them a chance to hear the sounds that creates. In this habitat, we also do lots of foraging as well. This is a foraging species, and so we have a number of different ways to encourage that behavior, which makes up a great majority of their day. We have the keepers or animal care specialists in the morning also set up, there's pockets around this habitat as well. If you want to look up in the top area there, there's one belt feeder up there. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, that's one of 3 belt feeders we have here that are around the perimeter of the habitat. And they will, throughout the day and at various times, deposit food and diet items into the habitat. And oftentimes the gorillas can't see that happening, and so they have to forage. They'll walk around the habitat looking for food. We notice a lot of times the little kids, like Nora and Zachary and Allie, will be out there and they're very in tune. They can actually hear sometimes the food dropping, and they kind of take off. And the adults know that, and so they watch the kids very closely to see, hey, if you guys see something, let us know, and we'll go out and find it with you. Those 3 feeders that we installed were actually part of a larger research project we did here with our behavioral research team. One of our goals was to encourage more foraging time for the animals. And as a result of putting in those 3 belt feeders alone, we increased their foraging behavior by about 50%. That's it for Tropic World Africa. Have a great day, and it's great to see you. Bye-bye.
People can benefit from multi-sensory experiences too. Let's visit the Play Zoo to see what Jenny's up to.
Hello Play Zoo friends, my name is Jenny. Thanks for joining us for the Hamill Family Play Zoo video series, bringing the Play Zoo to you. Today, we will embark on a sensory exploration. We will use our senses to explore an unusual substance made from natural materials that we call goop. Let's go. First things first, let's make the goop. We will need cornstarch and water. Cornstarch is a natural material made from corn that you can use for cooking and baking. When we make goop, we need to measure the ingredients. We can use a measuring cup or any plastic cup or scoop will do. Let's use a spoon to fill 1 cup full of cornstarch. Then dump it into the bowl. Now we'll fill 1/2 cup with water. Room temperature water works best. You can use a 1/2 cup measuring cup, or you can fill the cup you just used for the cornstarch halfway. Now dump the water into the bowl. And to make our goop extra goopy, let's add 1 more big spoonful of cornstarch into our bowl. Okay. It's time to mix the cornstarch and the water together. Wow, this is getting hard to stir with a spoon. That's okay, that just means that our goop is starting to get goopy. Now we will need to mix it with our hands. When our goop is ready, it will be smooth with no clumps. You may need to add a little more cornstarch or water to get it just right. You may have started to notice some unusual things about goop while you were making it. Now that it's ready, let's use our senses to explore this strange and amazing substance. I can see that our goop looks smooth and flat. When I touch it, it feels soft and squishy, a little bit dry and a little bit sticky. The way it looks is changing. It's starting to look rough and bumpy. I wonder what will happen if I scoop the goop. Oh, it looks stretchy and watery. This substance is truly amazing. The way it looks and feels changes when we touch it and move it and stretch it. When we play with goop, we notice how it looks different inside and outside of the bowl. We notice that there are lots of different textures. Texture is the way something feels. I wonder how it feels when you move it and stretch it. Sometimes we don't like the way something feels when we touch it. That's okay. We can use tools to help us explore the goop with our senses. We can push it around. I wonder if the goop has a smell. I wonder if it makes a sound when we move it. That was fun. Goop is an amazing substance to explore with our senses. If you'd like to share your discoveries with us, send us your photos or comments to the address on your screen. And until next time, what other ways can you explore the world using your 5 senses? See you next time.
Thanks, Jenny. Exploring nature with your sense of touch can be fun. What senses will you use during your next nature exploration? We'd love to find out, and we'd love to see you here next time on Bringing Brookfield Zoo to You.